All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started with Revolve Continued. So I'm going to make sure I've selected a working directory, TechEd 8, 2025, and press OK. I'm going to click New. It's going to stay a part file, and I'm going to change my file name to Revolve Continued, one word. All right, so we're going to choose a plane, then we're going to click on Revolve and then Sketch View, which you can find Sketch View over here as well. And then I'm going to just sketch out, this sketch that we have here, okay? And so I've got my line tool. I'm going to keep it on that y-axis. Okay, so when I did this, I crossed over that x-axis, and I did that on purpose because I am fine with Creo like moving my horizontal lines like up and down, but when you end it on this x-axis, you make this bottom part on the x-axis, then it wants to not move this, and your angles can go all over the place as you're trying to readjust. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I have my dimension tool on, so I'm going to click on this top edge and middle click up here, and this needs to be 2.5. Okay, now it made adjustments to all of my, because it was quite larger than 2.5, and so it kept everything else symmetrical, and so all of my dimensions are a lot smaller now. Okay, this is going to be 4. It says 4.00 in that picture. If you look, it kind of looks like an 8, but it's because there's an arrow going through that 0, so it's just supposed to be 4. This angle right here, so we're going to click on this slanted part and then this lower vertical part, and then we're going to middle click in between, and we're going to make that 150. Okay, this bottom vertical part, we are going to click on this, because right now this 13.31, that's showing the distance between this bottom end and the x-axis. All right, we want the length of the line here, so I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to middle click out here, and that needs to be 30. And then, and that did not go the way I wanted it to. So I'm going to Control Z, and I'm going to make this 20 first. Okay, so that's 20, and now I ended up clicking on the angle. So I just want this, and then I'm going to middle click. Oh, I don't have my dimension tool, I'm sorry. Click here, middle click, and that's going to be 30. Okay, and now I have a figure that looks like this one, just different color. Okay, so I'm going to then grab my center line, and I'm going to make sure that it goes on that y-axis vertically, and then I'm going to press OK. And we're going to keep it 360, and I'm going to accept my revolve, and now I have the body of my square drive. All right, so now we need to add this. We're going to add this handle, okay? So in order to do that, this is going to be, so this is Revolve Continued, but that was the only revolve we're actually going to do. So this next one, we're going to choose one of the planes that goes through the center of the revolve, the center of our figure. Okay, so it's either the right one or the front, either of those. That's going to depend on which one you chose to begin with. I chose front, so I have front or right as my choices. If you chose top, then you might have top and front or top and right on as your choices. So I'm just going to click on one of them. I'm going to click on front, and then I'm going to click extrude, and then I'm going to click on sketch view. So yours might end up horizontal, and that's totally fine. We're going to grab the circle tool, and I'm going to draw my circle right here on the y-axis. because that's the center. So I'm going to click it and I'm going to draw it. And I'm going to make sure that my circle is small enough that it doesn't touch the sides. And I'm going to get my dimension tool. I need to change the diameter to 5. If we look back on here we see that it has a diameter of 5 and that it's 5 millimeters from the end. All right, so I'm going to change my diameter to 5. And then this 8.3, that's the distance between the axis and or the center of our circle, and that's not what we're measuring. We want to go from the center of the circle, so make sure you have the dimension tool, center of the circle to this end, this surface at the end. Okay, so I selected both of those, and then I'm going to middle click over here, and this needs to be 5. All right, so I'm going to press OK, and that should extrude it. However, if I move and rotate my view a little bit, I see that it's a hole. They have removed material because they assumed that since I was starting in the center of it, that's where I drew my circle, that I wanted to remove material. I wanted to make a hole. That's not what we want to do. So we're going to click on where it says remove material, and that undoes that. Okay, so now we see that it's extruded as a solid, and we know by looking back at our dimensions that that is 30 millimeters long. Okay, so we're going to change this to 30, but it is coming out this way, and that is not what our screwdriver is supposed to look like. It's supposed to come out on both sides. So we're going to come back here, and right next to our 30, our depth of 30, we are going to choose symmetric. Okay, and that is going to have it coming out 15 millimeters on both sides. So it's going to be evenly extruded from that center plane. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and press OK. All right, so now we have our handle and the body of our drive. I'm going to hold down Shift and press my red mouse key to pan over. And I'm going to hold down my red mouse wheel to rotate it, and I'm going to select, we're going to go ahead and put the square on the top of it. Okay, so we're going to do the square drive part now, and I need to select the surface at the end. Okay, so I need to make sure that I'm selecting that round, that circle surface at the end, and click on it, and it'll turn green. And then we're going to do another extrude in sketch view. I'm going to use 2 center lines. Okay, so the first one I'll make horizontal, and the next one, it's not giving me a great place to start, but I know that this line goes through the center, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this point on the circle and then make sure that that's vertical. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab our rectangle tool, and just like we did with extrude continued, we're going to draw a square, or we're going to draw a rectangle that is symmetrical across these center lines. So when we see that little circle with the arrow pointing at it, we're telling it that whatever dimension that we choose, we want it to be the same distance from the center line on each side. And now we have it on the on this other edge too. Okay, so we're going to go to dimension, and we can see by looking back here that this is supposed to be 3.5 by 3.5. So we're going to change our dimensions here to 3.5. Okay, so you notice it jumped out, and it's still even on both sides, and now this is going to be 3.5 as well. All right, so it's coming right here to the edges of that circle, which is perfect. All right, so we're going to go ahead and accept our sketch, and it now extrudes from that end 3.5. But if we look back at our plans, it is supposed to be 4 inches extruded. So we're going to come back here, and we're going to change our depth from 3.5 to 4. Okay, so it's just a little bit longer than it is on each side. It's not really a cube. Okay. All right. So this gets you to the end of our first video. Okay, our next video is going to show you about rounding and changing the color.